All right, so are you ready to dive into some seriously strange footage?
Oh, yeah?
You guys sent us two videos that really push the boundaries of what we think is possible.
Hmm.
We're talking potential teleportation in Japan and a possible insect-like UFO sighting in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Buckle up, because this is going to get weird.
It's fascinating how these videos tap into our curiosity about the unknown.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is how each video presents a different type of anomaly.
Uh-huh.
One seemingly defying the laws of physics, and the other suggesting something out of this world.
Okay, let's start with that Japanese dashcam footage.
Right?
It's a little grainy, but you see a man suddenly appear in the middle of a busy road, right in front of a moving car.
Wow.
The video claims it's teleportation.
The video highlights a few key details that feed into that teleportation narrative.
Oh, yeah.
First, there's the man's reaction. He appears dazed and confused, as if he's just materialized out of thin air.
Right.
Then there's the fact he's wearing a backpack, leading some to speculate about a possible teleportation device.
And the video's narrator, Blake Cousins, even points out that there's no damage to the car.
Right.
Which you'd expect if someone had fallen from a bridge or something.
That lack of damage is a key point the video uses to push the teleportation angle.
Yeah.
But before we jump to conclusions, it's important to ground ourselves in what we know about teleportation from a scientific standpoint.
Okay.
It's a real concept in physics, especially in the realm of quantum mechanics.
Right.
But not in the way it's portrayed in the video.
So what's the real deal with teleportation? Can scientists actually teleport things?
What's fascinating about teleportation is that it's actually possible, but with a huge caveat.
Okay.
Right now, scientists can only teleport information, not physical matter.
Real.
It's called quantum teleportation, and it relies on the strange world of quantum entanglement.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me. Quantum entanglement. That thing's complicated.
Imagine you have two coins that are linked in a special way. If you flip one coin and it lands on heads, you instantly know the other coin will land on tails, no matter how far apart they are. That's kind of like entanglement.
I see.
Scientists can use this connection to transfer information about the state of one particle to another, making it seem like the information has teleported.
So could this explain what happened in the video? Did this guy somehow entangle himself with another location and poof, he's in the middle of the road?
Not quite. While quantum teleportation is mind-boggling, it's limited to transferring information, not matter. To teleport a whole person, you'd need to transfer the information about every single atom in their body.
Wow.
Which is far beyond our current capabilities.
All right, so scientifically speaking, teleportation is out. But this guy still appears out of nowhere. What are some more realistic possibilities?
Before we jump to any paranormal conclusions, let's consider some down-to-earth explanations.
Okay.
One possibility is that the video is a hoax. A clever editing trick designed to go viral.
Yeah, I've seen some pretty convincing video edits online. Could someone have digitally inserted the man into the footage?
It's definitely possible.
Wow.
And with the video being a bit blurry, it's even harder to tell for sure.
Right.
There are subtle techniques editors use to blend objects seamlessly into existing footage.
So how can someone like me, who isn't a video editing expert, spot these tricks?
Okay.
What should I be looking for?
There are a few telltale signs to watch out for.
Oh.
One is inconsistent lighting or shadows.
Right.
If the lighting on the inserted object doesn't match the surrounding environment, that's a red flag.
Gotcha.
Another thing to look for is unnatural movement or blurring.
Okay.
If the object seems to warp or jitter in an unnatural way, that could be a sign of digital manipulation.
So basically, I need to put on my detective hat and look for anything that seems off or out of place.
Exactly. And don't just take the video at face value.
Right.
Consider the source, look for independent verification, and always be willing to question what you see.
That's great advice. So besides clever editing, what are some other possibilities for this sudden appearance? Could there be a simpler explanation?
Absolutely. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely one.
Yeah.
In this case, it could be a matter of perspective or something happening just out of frame that we, the viewers, don't see.
So maybe he was hidden behind a parked car or a street sign, and the camera angle just makes it look like he appeared out of thin air.
Exactly. Our brains love to fill in the gaps when we're presented with incomplete information, so it's easy to jump to extraordinary conclusions when there might be a perfectly ordinary explanation.
That's a great point. It's a good reminder to stay grounded and consider all the possibilities before jumping to conclusions.
It's all about approaching these videos with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking.
Right.
We can be curious and explore the unknown, but we also need to be discerning and avoid falling for every strange video that pops up online.
Okay, so we've explored teleportation and some more realistic explanations for the Japanese video. Now let's shift gears and head over to Connecticut, where a 14-year-old boy claims to have filmed an insect-like UFO.
Okay.
This one is definitely going to make you scratch your head.
Insect-like UFOs are particularly intriguing because they tap into a specific type of fear and fascination. Unlike the classic disc-shaped UFOs, these sightings describe something more organic, more alien in its appearance.
And this particular sighting is described as being huge, somewhere between 10 to 15 feet in size.
Wow.
It supposedly flew consistently, but then came to a sudden stop, which I find really strange.
Estimating the size of something in the sky is incredibly difficult without any reference points.
Yeah, that's true.
Our perception can be easily fooled by factors like distance, perspective, and even atmospheric conditions.
So what we think is a giant insect-like UFO could actually be something much smaller and closer.
Right.
Or something much larger and farther away.
Exactly. Our brains try to make sense of what we see. But without a clear understanding of the object's surroundings, it's easy to misjudge its size and distance.
And of course, there's always the possibility of misidentification. Right. Could this be a drone, a bird, a weird weather phenomenon, or something else entirely?
That's a crucial question to ask whenever we encounter these types of sightings.
Yeah.
Before we jump to extraterrestrial conclusions, we need to exhaust all plausible explanations. Could it be something mundane that's just been misinterpreted?
Right. So we need to consider all the usual suspects before we call in the X-Files team.
Exactly. And even then, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Yeah.
We need more than just one person's account or a blurry video to confirm something as groundbreaking as an alien spacecraft.
Well, speaking of evidence, the video description mentions that this supposed UFO was pursued by military jets.
Oh, wow.
Which, if true, adds a whole other layer of intrigue.
Right.
But like you said, we need more than just a claim to back that up.
Independent confirmation is key in these situations. Did anyone else see these jets? Is there any radar data or official reports to corroborate the claim? Without that, we have to treat it with a healthy dose of skepticism.
So it sounds like we need to be careful not to get swept up in the excitement and hype surrounding these videos.
Yeah.
It's okay to be curious and intrigued, but we need to stay grounded and think critically.
Absolutely. That's the key to navigating the world of the unexplained. We can balance our sense of wonder with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
And who knows, maybe by applying that approach, we can uncover some truly amazing truths about the universe we live in.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of being skeptical and looking for those telltale signs of fakery, especially when it comes to videos online. But even if we set aside the possibility of hoaxes, there's still so much we don't know about these events. What are some of the other things that have stood out to you as you've been analyzing this footage?
One thing that struck me about the teleportation video is how the narration seems to lead viewers towards a specific conclusion. They emphasize the man's shocked expression, the mysterious backpack, the lack of damage to the car, almost like they're presenting these as evidence for teleportation.
Right.
Rather than just objectively presenting the footage.
You're right.
Yeah.
It does feel like they're trying to nudge us in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Making it seem more believable than it might actually be.
And that's why it's so important to be media savvy, especially in this age of digital manipulation. We have to be aware of how information is being presented to us, to question the motives behind it, and to always seek out multiple perspectives.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the unknown and to want to believe, especially when it comes to things like teleportation or UFOs.
Right.
I have to admit, I felt a little tingle of excitement watching that guy appear out of thin air.
It's natural to be drawn to these mysteries, but it's important to approach them with a critical eye.
Yeah.
While we can appreciate the wonder and intrigue, we need to balance that with a healthy dose of skepticism. That's where scientific understanding can be so valuable.
So even if we rule out teleportation, there's still the question of how that man ended up in the middle of the road. You mentioned some plausible explanations earlier. Can we dive into those a bit more?
Of course. One possibility we touched on is that it was a prank or a staged event, perhaps orchestrated for online views or just for a laugh.
Yeah, I've definitely seen my share of elaborate pranks online.
Yeah.
Could this be another one for the Viral Video Hall of Fame?
It wouldn't be the first time. And as video editing technology becomes more sophisticated, it's getting harder to distinguish real footage from fabricated content.
That makes it even more important to be critical consumers of online media. We can't believe everything we see. But let's say this wasn't a prank or a cleverly edited video. What else could it be?
Well, another possibility is that it was a case of misdirection.
Okay.
Maybe there was something just out of frame that we, the viewers, don't see,
Hmm.
something that would explain the man's sudden appearance.
So like maybe he was hiding behind a parked car or something, and the camera angle simply didn't capture it.
Exactly. Our brains tend to fill in the gaps when we're presented with incomplete information,
Right.
which can lead us to misinterpret what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
We automatically create narratives to make sense of things,
Yeah,
and sometimes those narratives lead us down the wrong path.
that's fascinating. So are you saying that our own brains can trick us into seeing things that aren't really there?
In a way, yes. Our brains are constantly trying to create order and meaning out of the sensory information we receive.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that process can lead to misinterpretations, especially when we're dealing with ambiguous or incomplete information.
I guess that makes sense. But it also makes it even harder to determine what's real and what's not, especially with these videos.
It's a challenge for sure,
Yeah.
but even if we can't definitively say what happened in these videos, we can still learn from them. We can use them as opportunities to hone our critical thinking skills,
Okay.
to question our assumptions, and to appreciate the complexities of perception and interpretation.
That's a great way to look at it. We don't always need a definitive answer to learn something valuable.
Exactly. And sometimes the journey of exploration is more rewarding than the destination itself.
Speaking of exploration, let's circle back to that Connecticut video with the insect-like UFO. You mentioned that these types of sightings are particularly intriguing. What makes them stand out from other UFO reports?
Insect-like UFOs tap into a different kind of unease than, say, your typical disc-shaped UFO.
Yeah.
There's something inherently unsettling about seeing something organic and unfamiliar flying through the air.
Right.
It plays on a primal fear of the unknown, something that feels alien in a very literal sense.
It's true. There's something about the description of a giant flying insect that just sends shivers down my spine. It feels more invasive somehow.
It's a very visceral reaction, and it's no coincidence that insect-like creatures are often used in horror movies and science fiction to evoke a sense of dread and otherworldliness.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So have there been other reports of insect-like UFOs throughout history?
Definitely. There's a long history of these types of sightings dating back centuries. One of the most famous cases is the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s. People reported seeing a large winged creature with glowing red eyes, which fueled all sorts of theories about a harbinger of doom or a creature from another dimension.
Oh, wow. I've heard of Mothman. It's interesting how these sightings often seem to be linked to folklore and mythology.
It's true. Humans have always tried to make sense of the unexplainable by weaving stories and creating myths. And when something as strange as a giant flying insect appears, it's natural to connect it to existing narratives about monsters, demons, or creatures from beyond our world.
So how do we approach these sightings with a critical eye, especially when they're so steeped in mythology and folklore?
The key is to separate the objective observations from the subjective interpretations.
Okay.
What did the witnesses actually see? What are the potential explanations, both mundane and extraordinary? And how do these sightings fit into the broader context of UFO phenomena and our understanding of the world?
Right. We need to look at the facts, consider all the possibilities, and avoid jumping to conclusions based on pre-existing beliefs or cultural narratives.
Exactly. It's all about finding that balance between being open to the unknown and being grounded in critical thinking. And sometimes that means acknowledging that we may never have all the answers.
And that's okay, right? Not knowing can be just as intriguing as knowing.
Absolutely. Embracing the mystery is part of the fun. It keeps us curious, it keeps us exploring, and it keeps us open to the possibility that there's so much more out there than we can even imagine.
It's amazing to think that just by exploring these two videos, we've opened up a whole universe of possibilities and really challenged our perceptions of what's real and what's not.
It's a testament to the power of curiosity and the importance of keeping an open mind, even when faced with seemingly unbelievable events.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these intriguing videos, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say it's crucial to remember that not everything we see online is what it seems. With the rise of sophisticated video editing and digital manipulation, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish fact from fiction.
So we need to be savvy consumers of information, especially when it comes to sensational videos that make extraordinary claims.
Absolutely. We need to be critical thinkers, to question our assumptions, and to look for evidence before accepting anything as truth.
And it's not just about debunking or dismissing everything as fake. It's about approaching these videos with a healthy dose of skepticism while still allowing for the possibility that something extraordinary might be happening.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between being critical and being open-minded.
And even if we can't definitively say whether these videos are real or fake, we can still learn something from them. They can teach us about the power of perception, the importance of critical thinking, and the limits of our current understanding.
They can also inspire us to learn more about the world around us, to explore new ideas, and to question the boundaries of what we think is possible.
So rather than getting bogged down in trying to prove or disprove every strange video we encounter, we can use them as opportunities to expand our knowledge and challenge our perspectives.
And perhaps most importantly, we can use them to cultivate a sense of wonder and curiosity about the universe we live in.
It's about embracing the mystery, acknowledging the unknown, and approaching the world with a sense of awe and excitement.
Because ultimately, that's what makes life so fascinating, the realization that there's always more to learn and that we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
Well said.
Mm.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought-provoking question.
I'm all ears.
If we do entertain the possibility of the unexplained, if we allow for the existence of things that science hasn't yet explained, how does that change our responsibility to the world around us?
That's a really interesting question. I think it challenges us to be more mindful of the choices we make and the impact we have on the planet and on each other.
Because if there are forces and phenomena at play that we don't fully understand, maybe we need to be more careful, more respectful of the delicate balance of life.
Perhaps it calls for a greater sense of humility and a willingness to learn from other perspectives, both scientific and spiritual.
Maybe it even inspires us to be more compassionate and more connected to the web of life that surrounds us.
It's a reminder that we're all part of something much larger than ourselves, and that our actions have consequences that ripple far beyond our immediate understanding.
So as we go about our day, let's remember to keep our minds open, our hearts curious, and our senses attuned to the wonders and mysteries that surround us.
And who knows, maybe by embracing the unknown, we'll uncover truths that will change the way we see the world and our place in it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the unexplained. We'll see you next time with more mind-bending mysteries and thought-provoking discussions. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.